Here on the home stretch, it's time for our 3:30 local music news, and typically we spotlight a local artist, and in this case, we're spotlighting a handful of local artists, but a local record label. It's Fort Lowell Records, and the founder, James Tritten, is joining us this afternoon. Hi, James.
Hi there.
Thanks for coming up here this afternoon.
My pleasure.
And congratulations on 1 year of records with Fort Lowell Records.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Exciting stuff. So I mentioned really quickly that there is a showcase, a big party tonight, including the Young Mothers, Wet and Reckless, Tracy Shedd, Dead Western Plains, Death Kit, and music video.
Yes.
Those are, is that all six, actually, all six of the artists that are pressed on Fort Lowell Records?
Correct. They're from the first 5 records.
Mm-hmm.
Where the 6th band comes in is on the 3rd record. It's a split release, and that's featuring Wet and Reckless on side A and then Tracy Shedd on side B. So the first 5 records represent 6 artists.
If somebody out there is online right now, or I've got their phone, where can they go to quickly look at more information on Fort Lowell Records?
Either using Facebook, just Fort Lowell Records, type it in the search and it'll definitely come up. We run a blog spot versus a traditional website, so it's just fortlowell.blogspot.com that's our standard website. On SoundCloud, same thing, just Fort Lowell Records in SoundCloud. You can actually find all the music streaming online there as well. So pretty much you can just put it in Google nowadays, I think. I come up faster than the actual Fort Lowell itself.
That's good. Effective, very effective marketing. That's a good point for us to actually go back in time to your love for vinyl records. Is that kind of what was it that catalyzed you wanting to start a record company and make it vinyl?
Yeah, that's exactly it. A love of vinyl. Any of my friends that come into my house, they know the infamous wall of vinyl at the house. So, it all boiled down to back in the 90s when I started being in a band. I'm back on the East Coast. I'm from Florida. All we ever used to put out was 7-inch records. CDs existed, but no one really did that. It was all about getting 7 inches out. And, I have 4 or 5 7-inches from my first band. And so it was, I guess, about a year and a half ago in a November time frame, I was sitting home sick one day and just spinning through old 7-inches from old bands, so friends of mine. And then it just dawned on me that, no one really had been pushing the Tucson scene on vinyl. There were a lot of great artists that had already been pushing vinyl out there, which is, like Golden Boots, Naeem, he's been doing a lot of stuff on vinyl. And I have all that, and I really appreciate it. And then I was like, but there needs to be more. There needs to be more artists putting vinyl out. So I just figured, why not do it for them?
What is it about vinyl? What is it about the medium? What are the qualities that make it attractive to kind of to do something like this?
For me, it's actually an experience. I mean, it's the idea of having to get up off the couch, hold the record, flip it over. It really makes you more engaged with the music. You actually can't allow it to become background music because you have to know that the record's about to end. All right, the music's going to stop. I have to be ready for this. So I personally just feel more engaged to music that way. There is a tonal difference, that I notice. I got into vinyl, I think it was in 1994, listening to Stereolab. I owned one of their records one of their albums on CD, and I just happened to buy a 7-inch of one of those songs, a Ping Pong, and when I put it on at home, I noticed clearly the difference between the two. It was just boldly obvious, and from that point forward, I just said, why would I buy music any other way? And it just sort of made sense to me. So.
For bands, is there an economy or an opportunity that makes it a little easier for them to put things out on a more consistent basis, or what might that be?
Truly, I'd say the opposite. It's actually more expensive. That's I think that's what kept a lot of bands in the late 90s and going into the young 2000 years. That's why a lot of bands, including myself, we stopped doing vinyl because all of a sudden the CDs were much cheaper, or even worse, in my opinion, I'll just put it up online for free. Mm-hmm. And then you're really just taking away all the value to all the work that you do, and, the work that goes into the recording process, and, all the engineers and people that pay attention to that, as well as, even the art that goes behind it. There's so much heart and soul put into a release, not just the recording, but the whole process that, to just stick it up online for free, you're basically saying, it's worthless at this point. There's no reason to do that. And for me, I just fell in love with Tucson. I fell in love with all the music here that I think that's tremendous value for it. And that was my determination, was that I wanted to show these other artists that, you don't need to give your music away for free. You could sell it. People will buy it. And we've proven that. We're almost sold out of the Young Mothers 7-inch, and that's just a year ago. So that's 500 units we moved in a year. For me, that's pretty impressive.
And there's a great resurgence in the last few years with vinyl collectors, particularly a younger demographic as well, as they kind of get into their father's records,
Right.
if you can put it that way.
Right, and that's why we have fun with it. We're doing the colors. That's kind of the whole idea. There's some theory if you want to really get into the critiquing of audio, quality.
Is the blue better than the yellow?
Well,
or
I
what
think
is
the
it?
theory is black, better than any color.
Right.
Is that whole argument?
As far as the T-shirt, yes.
Yeah, of course. But for me, I just have fun with it. I think the colors are a lot of fun. People like to collect that, and we try to find colors that people haven't done before. Like Hal's is the blue with the black swirl in it.
The emerald blue, yes, the swirly emerald blue. If you just tuned in, we're talking with James Tritten. He's the founder of Fort Lowell Records. There's a showcase this evening featuring the bands that have recorded over the last year of Fort Lowell Records' existence, and it's a happy one-year anniversary for Fort Lowell Records. James, how did you approach these certain bands? How did you select these bands to press the first records?
They're honestly my favorite artists, as simple as that. And Young Mothers...
So you approached them?
Yeah, I approached them, and Young Mothers was clearly going to be the first band I wanted to put out, because I just adore them. I love the music that Zach writes. I think he's a phenomenal songwriter. And then same thing with music video. I was a fan afar. I didn't know the guys. I only knew them online and listening to music online. And it was like, I really got to get their music on vinyl for them. Wet and Reckless and Death Kit are actually old friends of mine from Jacksonville. My wife is Tracy Shedd. I think most people know that at this point. Emily, the singer from Wet and Reckless, she actually is on the cover of Tracy's record, Cigarettes and Smoke Machines, which was her 2008 release. So she's an old friend from Jacksonville. August, who's the guitarist, or the guitarist singer from Death Kit, he actually used to be in Tracy's band back in, I think, the young 2000 era, somewhere around in 2002, maybe around that time frame. He was her guitarist for a little bit of time. So there's some ties there. And then for me, Hal's just, I've known Hal's music for years. I mean, since I started listening to music, I was familiar with Giant Sand, and it's just a pure honor to have him as part of the family now, and have a record represented by him. So,
well, James, happy anniversary to Fort Lowell Records. It's exciting. It's great to see a local somebody with an idea and put it in motion, and all the local artists really jump behind it. James, thanks for coming up here this afternoon. I've been enjoying playing your records over the last year, and all the artists on the label. It's really fun to pull out a piece of a 45 and lay it on the platter and drop the needle down and play it for everybody out here, all the listeners enjoying the music as well. And we've been selling it at KXCI's music booths throughout the months at the second Saturdays, and always get a good response from people when they pick it up and check out the vinyl.
Great.
So it's fun stuff.